I'm Ron Goldberg, and I'm moderating this panel, which will include myself, Ray, Bill, and Richard. We're all going to start by introducing ourselves, talking a little bit about our experience at OLLI. But the key point we want you to get and take away with you is Zoom, which we're talking about today. Using the Zoom technology for an OLLI class or for personal reasons is fun to use, it's easy to use, it's free to use. But we're going to start off introducing ourselves and talking about just briefly, a minute or two, about our experiences with OLLI. Again, I'm Ron Goldberg. I'm on the OLLI Leadership Council. I've been involved with OLLI since I moved to Sedona about 3 years ago. Fortunately, a friend of mine back where I came from in Los Angeles was involved with OLLI in one of the suburbs and told me about it. And as soon as I got here, I looked it up. I started taking classes as soon as I could. And then I started teaching classes, and my involvement grew over time. I've taught about 7 or 8 distinct classes that I developed. And then came this spring and the virus hit, and all of a sudden we were no longer doing face-to-face classes, and we all had to learn something new, which of course is good because the way our brains stay young is to learn new things. And so we all got to learn about using Zoom technology. Personally speaking, I never used Zoom before OLLI taught me how to use Zoom. Where the last place I worked, we did teleconferencing, but that was all, I just had to show up at the room to do it. I didn't have to know anything or do anything. Zoom is pretty much like that, but where I came from, where I worked, I did nothing. We had a technology guru on our site, and we all got hooked up. And I'll tell you though, even though the company spent millions of bucks on that, it does not work as well as Zoom. Zoom works a lot better. So let me call on Ray first to speak about herself.
Hi, I'm Ray. A lot of you probably know me. I took my first OLLI class, I don't know, about 2005 or 6, and I've been taking classes off and on ever since. I've taught, facilitated. Hey, we facilitate. I've facilitated a number of classes, all the way from investing to gardening. I'm known as the tomato lady, and art, creativity. I'll be doing a fall class on drawing outside. It will be in person. That's unusual. But I live in Cottonwood, so I'm driving over to Sedona for classes is always a big nuisance. And I really like the Zoom thing. I was surprised. I was really doubtful, but this thing's pretty cool.
Well,
I can tell you, excuse me.
Let's move. Go ahead.
I have to say, when you introduced yourself as the tomato lady, I know a number of neighbors that would really love to take your class right now. They're not having a lot of luck in my neighborhood growing tomatoes.
Hey, it's a little late now, guys, but I am thinking of doing one in the winter. Well, I could do one in the fall, except the catalog's already set.
Well, Ray, once social distancing is over, you may see me and my wife, who loves tomatoes. My wife's originally from Maryland, and they eat real farm-grown tomatoes. So, but moving along, let's go to Richard and get his intro.
Richard, I'm fairly recent in the valley. I live in Cottonwood. Ray, senior garden, took your gardening class. I can't get any tomatoes to go either. The main things I think I had to say about, well, OLLI is great. You can take anything from an academic class to something like gardening or painting or wherever you want to go. So this is terrific. I'm just finishing up my first year taking OLLI classes. I am computer illiterate, and I have tried in the past Skype, and I just found it was more trouble than I could deal with. My wife and I have children living in Northern California, and we don't get to see each other as often as we like. And now that I have learned a little bit about Zoom, we've had, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings already, and I get to see their new garden and what they're growing, and it's really been great family-wise. What I can tell you about Zoom is if you will log in, get the slides on how to do it, it's quite simple. If I can do it, I guarantee you just about anybody can do it. Sign up and at least be a participant. It really is fairly simple. And the instructions, I guess, mostly made by John Block. It's a very good slideshow, very accurate, and works well.
Absolutely.
What else can I say about it? I guess that's it for now. We'll see where we go.
Okay, we're now going to go to Bill, and I'll, in terms of full transparency, Bill is our ringer. He's on the technology committee at OLLI, so he knows a lot about these things, but he's here in case one of us non-technical people step on ourselves and make a big mistake. He's going to fix it and correct us. Plus, he has some really interesting technology for those of you who have hearing issues that he could demo right during this call. He did it this morning at another OLLI meeting we had, and I was flabbergasted. I didn't even know stuff like that existed. So, Bill?
Sure. First of all, Richard, I think you're right on track. You mentioned John Black. We have some really good quality folks introducing and teaching our technology and the Zoom concept as well. And it is great. I'm going to start with this real quickly, if I may. It's an app that you can get for your smartphone, and it's free. And what it does, it transcribes your words into type as fast as you can talk. Now you understand there's a lag period because Zoom actually goes to the satellites and then back down to us. So there's a little bit of time frame between my words and what you see coming up on the screen. This is called live transcribe. And the power of this is if you know anybody who's hard of hearing, it is the best solution that you could imagine. Now, a lot of folks wear hearing aids and they pay a lot of money to increase their quality of life by getting something, having the ability to hear. But at some point, a lot of times, they're past the ability to get help from a hearing aid. And then they need to read. They can actually be in a conversation at the moment with this Google program called Live Transcribe. And it can also be of benefit if I was to set this on a tripod. I could actually have a transcriber for you as we speak. Just an option I wanted to share that I'm using a microphone, but you can also, I have 2 microphones, by the way. You can also use the phone's microphone. Here's an advantage to these little $5 microphones. If you're riding in a car, you know the road noise is loud. You can actually hand the microphone to the back seat and have somebody in the back carrying on a conversation with somebody in the front who's hard of hearing. Very handy. I wanted to get that out of the way. Okay, so I'm Bill Johnson. I taught technology for my whole career. The type of technology I taught was computerized manufacturing, robotics, getting the robots to do things and make things, and lasers and all those kinds of things where robots manage machinery. So I was smack dab in the middle of computers all the time, every day. But guess how long it takes to become obsolete? Probably about 6 months. So, Richard, when you say you don't know anything about computers, trust me, we're all in the same boat. We're all learning. And that's powerful because You know, we like to put this concept into, you know, somebody knows everything. I've known some really good computer engineers, and I've never known one who knew everything. And I mean that. They're chasing a monster themselves to keep up with what's going on. So we're all on the same learning boat. I guarantee you, we all have to work hard at staying in the game, so to speak. Okay. My experience with Zoom was I've taught for a year and a half or so and taken classes, but Zoom, of course, didn't even come on the scene till what, January, February? Nobody even knew what it was, you know, and it includes me. Okay, I was using Skype, so Zoom is like a foreign word to me, and so I had to start same place everybody else did, and I found it to be pretty user-friendly. I think as you look at us right now, we're just having a conversation. You know, there's no magic here. So
Well,
go ahead.
Following up on Richard, I wanted to ask, starting with Ray, how did you find the OLLI classes on how to use Zoom? Because that's kind of the beginning when you take that class with, you know, the OLLI tech gurus like John or Bill, and you learn it. What did you think of the actual class? Was it, you know, could you understand it? Was it fun? Was it worthwhile? Those kinds of things.
It was really excellent. I was very resistant to this idea. I thought taking an OLLI class with Zoom would be like listening to a TED talk, and there wasn't any, or a YouTube video. I was like, nah. And so it wasn't until this summer, early this summer, that I really missed OLLI and signed up for some classes and took logged in to take the training. They sent me an email. It had a link. I clicked on the link. Now I did download something with Zoom. I don't know what it did. I clicked on what it told me, and it, clicked on the link, and voila, there it was. I mean, this thing was great. And I did the training for participants, and then I did the training for facilitators. So I did both of them, and I listened to a video that John Black put together, because I always kind of make everything much more difficult than it needs to be. I mean, you people know me, I'm bad. So I really dug into this thing, and the training stuff he put together was great.
Okay, well, Richard, you pretty much testified at the beginning to being, you know, a troglodyte when it comes to technology. So what was your experience?
You see, it's probably backwards, isn't it?
Speak up a little.
I downloaded and printed the instruction slides before the Zoom class. And I read them the night before. I just went through and highlighted them as I do with textbooks or whatever I'm reading. And then having the live class and following the instructions on my printed slides. And then the advantage of Zoom is that anytime I got stuck or couldn't understand something, I would just raise my hand and ask a question of the facilitator or someone else in the class. So I hesitate to call it easy, but it really is quite simple. And that's how I learned to do, I took both the classes.
And let me ask you, I mean, I believe in asking, when I do a seminar, I always say, we're going to ask stupid questions, because that's how everybody, if you have the stupid question, there's 3 other people who do, but they don't have the nerve, I use the politically correct term, they don't have the nerve to ask the question. But you did, and how did you get received?
Oh, very well, no problems. Somebody answered it. There was no looking down or anybody saying, well, stupid, it's on the page. No, it's been very enjoyable. Go ahead, Ray. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, you know, question and answers in an OLLI classroom can be a thing of mumble, mumble, bumble, bumble. You can't hear. But with Zoom, you can hear the questions. You can hear the answers from whoever. I mean, it's better than a regular OLLI classroom when it comes to Q&A.
Yeah.
Well, Ray, could I ask you a question? And we're not violating any confidence here, but I know Ray has some hearing challenges. How does it work for you?
It's much better. I also have some vision challenges. And, you know, I almost stopped taking OLLI classes because I couldn't hear anything. And a lot of times I couldn't see the slides. Now then I started sitting in the front row. But you can see the slides. You can read everything on a slide, even if somebody's done a slide that's tiny, which I think is really stupid. And you can hear everything. So from my point of view, the experience of a class with Zoom is better than it was in the classroom.
Wow.
Well, Bill, let me ask you a question. You were actually a teacher for many, many years, and you were tasked and responsible for making sure your students learned what you were teaching, you know, to the best of your ability. So how do you see the Zoom working?
Well, your preparation is different, but for the most part, your presentation is going to be the same. It's an interactive, the success is based on the interaction. And so you read the class just like you would a normal class as a teacher. In other words, you've been reading the group here, and we can see each other's reactions and our responses, and you see somebody who wants to ask a question. I would say extremely positive. It's extremely effective. And unfortunately, the fact is necessary. This concept is not going to go away. We're going to see it stay with us for quite some time, I believe. And we need to jump in. Just try it. Can't hurt a thing.
Well, one of the things I find interesting is those of us OLLI-aged people, or like Linda Shook likes to say, seasoned citizens, we're basically, by doing this, we're doing the same thing our grandkids are doing right now, whether they're in or be doing in a couple of weeks, whether they're in elementary school or high school, middle school, college, university. They're going to be using Zoom for all or some of their learning adventures this year. So we're doing the same thing that the kids are doing. Now, of course, we all know, at least I know from my grandkids, they love to sit in front of the computer. You know, you nearly have to smack them upside the head to get them away from the computer. But, you know, they want to play games and talk to their friends and all that stuff. But they're using the same technology. So if you were talking to them on the phone or hopefully via Zoom, you could say, well, how's it going? They're going to tell you, well, we use it. Oh, I use that too. And that's like something you and the kids have in common. It's almost like a bonding thing. You're both using Zoom. And along that lines, I wanted to ask everybody, whoever wants to jump in first can, what if you know, aside from OLLI, obviously we push OLLI because we're all involved here with OLLI, and we want OLLI to be successful, and it's not going to be successful unless the vast majority of our members become comfortable in implementing and using Zoom in their lives, in their OLLI life. But how else have you used it that's been fun with friends or kids or family or whatever?
Well, my sister lives in Australia, and I never have gotten onto Skype. It all just sounded too complicated. But we recently had a Zoom thing between my sister in Australia and my cousin in Portland, and that was great. I mean, I hadn't really seen my sister in, 15 years. So, and it didn't cost anything. I mean, it was like as if she just logged into a website. It's just a website, folks. It's just data. It's very simple. It's unbelievably simple. And I can't figure out how Zoom makes money because it's free. Now, I guess they charge, I don't know, if you're a corporation and you want to do more than, I don't know how that works. But for us, it's all free.
Right.
So this really works great.
If you step outside and look up in the sky, you won't see very many vapor trails. Corporations are using this in a big, big way. Even in our OLLI program uses this in a big way. It's an integral part of how we function. And it has to do with no different than what we're doing right now. Communication, the ability to brainstorm, troubleshoot, and all of us get our minds together and have a meeting and discussion, and we're discussing Zoom as it happens to be. But the idea that there isn't all that much travel anymore, corporations are big on this Zoom idea.
Oh, yeah.
They have to be.
I took a class last week, and it turned out the facilitator was in Annapolis, Maryland, and there was somebody else in the class who's a snowbird, and he was from Canada using his smartphone. So no longer can you have to think of an OLLI class. Oh, I'm going vacation. I'm going to miss 2 weeks. Well, you don't have to miss 2 weeks. You have your smartphone. You just zoom in, and you don't have to miss the class. This reduces distance tremendously. Distance is no longer an issue. I don't have to think, I don't want to take Science News and Views because it's 9 o'clock in the morning at Sedona, and there's no way I want to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning to drive to Sedona. I don't have to. I can get up and drink my coffee, and I don't even have to get out of my jammies if I want to.
Right.
Well, Richard, have you used it for any fun things aside from OLLI?
Oh, yes, family. One of the things that we've noticed, I haven't done it, but another point about Zoom, it tells you there's a 40-minute limit, but we did a big Mother's Day thing with both of our kids, and we got to the 40 minutes, and they just said, oh, well, we're going to give you the rest of the afternoon. And we were actually on for almost 3 hours with our children, and they picked up their laptop and went out and showed us their giant garden in the yard, and it was a great afternoon. It wasn't quite as good as having the kids here for Mother's Day, but it was about as close as you can get under our current circumstances.
Yeah.
And it just went on and on. As you said, there was no cost to it. So, and I will say about OLLI, one more thing about OLLI instructions. I actually emailed a set to my son because he's working in the wine industry in Northern California, and he was trying to figure out how to use a PowerPoint in his OLLI meetings that he was having. And those instructions are in the facilitator guide.
Well, I think we should point out to everybody who's not familiar with Zoom, you're going to say, okay, that's great. We all see each other, but when I went to OLLI, my facilitator put up a video or put up PowerPoints or all that. That's really easy to do. For the facilitator, they could put up a PowerPoint presentation. They could put up photos that they have in anything they have in their computer that they could pull up on their screen, they could share with the whole audience. So it could be part of a TED Talk. It could be a YouTube video. It could be a music recording. It could be pictures of cathedrals in Europe. Doesn't matter. It could be a printed outline of what they're going to talk about. Doesn't really matter. All of that could be shared. So that part of the educational experience is still there. Well, we only
something else too, Ron.
left. Bill?
Something else that's unique and handy. I talked to somebody yesterday that their daughter was needing to purchase a wedding dress, and they're back east, 1,000 miles away, and by golly, they got to participate in this endeavor, and not only that, but record it, as we are doing right now, recording this, And so you have an ongoing opportunity, you have an ongoing record to go and review your family gathering, which is even more powerful. Pretty fun.
Well, I thank you for that. And I would just like to ask, you know, let's start with Ray and we'll go to Richard then. Are there any, you know, final comments you would like to make to the people to, you know, we're here to convince you to use Zoom. We all believe it's fun. We all know it's enriched us educationally and personally. And so we want to convince you, despite all your fears, to use Zoom. So what would you say to everybody, Ray?
I'd say that I mean, I really meant it when I said that in some respects it's better than taking a regular OLLI class in a classroom. I mean, I was just flabbergasted because, as I said, I really kind of quit taking OLLI classes because I couldn't hear. And now I can hear everybody perfectly clearly. I also encourage facilitators. OLLI, the facilitators are the most important part. And I have talked to a couple of facilitators who are reluctant to get into, you know, do a Zoom class. And I am really looking forward to it because it's a new challenge. You might have to operate a little bit differently. You need to really make even more of an effort to include everybody. But this thing's great. This really is great.
Richard?
My suggestion would be to take the online class from OLLI. It only takes a few minutes, and you will have all the instructions, and you can ask questions easily, and you will be very good at it very quickly. So you just got to give it a try. It's not that hard.
And Bill?
I mean, Richard couldn't have said it better. Just jump in, and it's painless. Your learning curve is going to be way faster than you may think, and there's so many opportunities. Just even in this conversation, we've learned from each other. And
Yeah, and I just want to end with saying, you know, there's always going to be, as long as we're all alive, there's going to be new technology, and it changes. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. It moves faster and faster and faster as it rolls on the hill. And, you know, I remember a time before, you know, when I started working, there were no fax machines. There were certainly no computers on everybody's desk. There was no cell phone. When we went out to travel, we had to carry a roll of quarters with us so we could find a payphone, hopefully, and make a call to our office if we had to. Then all of that changed, and we learned how to use these little buggers, you know, one way or the other. Now we love them. I don't know anybody who doesn't love their cell phone. You know, it's the first thing you touch in the morning, and it's the last thing you touch at night. So this will be like that. Zoom is easy. Zoom is free. It's fun. So I encourage you all to do it. And there's plenty of support there. Richard?
One last thing in how easy this is to do, or simple, not easy. If you can roll a mouse, you can do this. If you can roll a mouse and click, you can do these classes.
And it'll work with whatever you have, too. If you don't have a computer that has a mouse and all that, that's not a requirement. It'll work with, if you have a smartphone, it'll work with your iPhone. It'll work with your Android, your Samsung, whatever you have. It'll work with your tablet. Most of the time I use my tablet just because I've, you know, got addicted to using the tablet for everything. It'll work with your Apple PC. It'll work with your Microsoft or PC. It'll work. The Zoom people have set it up to work with everything. So, and I can't overemphasize the fact it's free. Nobody's going to come on Zoom in demand. Even if you set up your own Zoom account, if you go for a basic account, which is a little bit more involved, you don't have to give them a credit card number. They're not going to ask you for a credit card number. It's free. Free, 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 fun, fun, fun. Thank all of you for participating. We'll let Bill make the last word.
I heard somebody say the other day, they came from an era when they used to have party lines. A bunch of people used to be on the show the same line. And they used a comparison that Zoom is not that much harder than talking on a party line. We're just sharing ideas. There's a number, we get to see each other when we do it. And
Good point, Bill, good point. Again,
Interesting.
thank all of you for your participation. We're hoping everybody continues to not only love OLLI, but support OLLI in any way you can. Keep your membership going, donate if you can, take classes, because we want this virus, hopefully at some point, we don't know quite when, it's going to go away and we're all going to be back in OLLI, drinking lemonade and eating cookies together. And, you know, we all want OLLI to stay successful. So thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.